In this case, in Namoi Cotton Cooperative and Stephen Easterman, a father, as an administrator of his daughter's estate, took the employer to the Workers' Compensation Commission after his daughter was killed on the way home from work. What really came out of this case was how long she had been working. She'd been working for 12 hours, night shifts over 5 days previously, and on the 6th day she was sent home early after a mechanical breakdown, and consequently she crashed her vehicle into a B-double truck. The police eventually found out that the main cause of the crash was fatigue due to her working hours, and the employer obviously disputed that, and that she wasn't tired and it was some sort of other reason, maybe her driving or because of the truck.
I think the significant thing in this case is a clawing back of the sort of journey claim entitlement changes that happened under the O'Farrell government, so where employers are no longer entitled to workers' compensation if they're travelling to or from work and home. There are exceptions to the rule, and I think this is going to be quite a big area for people like shift workers, industries where a lot of overtime is worked. Certainly employers are going to have to sit down and have a think about whether overtime is something that needs to be reconsidered in light of this.
And it could go further in terms of actual work health and safety. Whilst it's associated with the employment enough for a journey claim for there to be compensation, questions arise, and this is obviously not occurred in this instance, but well could have, as to whether in fact there's some kind of criminal liability in relation to continuously rostering people to work hours where it is, as the Workers' Compensation Commission said, more likely than not that they're going to end up seriously fatigued and at risk, and it's not an acceptable. It's a statement to a certain extent by the Workers' Compensation Commission. It's not an acceptable process to take, and as we know, both in relation to workers' comp issues, but also occupational health and safety or health and safety requirements, it's not enough to just say, well, they were happy to do it or they wanted the overtime money. You've got an obligation to stop it.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see, some industries where people regularly work overtime, and therefore that distinction between if it's someone that's just for the first time worked overtime and become increasingly tired, as opposed to someone that may regularly work 50, 60-hour weeks, and therefore the argument that they wouldn't be as tired. Though it's interesting also the sort of fly in, fly out mining environments where this sort of thing happens all the time. Now, you don't have them driving, but if there was some kind of industrial accident, obviously workers' comp, if it's an industrial accident, would be covered, but there's also the real possibility of work health and safety issues in relation to fatigue if it gets to the point where people are saying, well, that person would be fatigued. Absolutely. A normal person would be. There's been a long acknowledgement in employment law that employers have a responsibility in relation to their employees driving when intoxicated and work functions. So this is, in a way, not too much of an extension to say if someone is knowingly fatigued, that you've got an obligation to stop them driving as well. A lot of employers as well, bigger employers have policies in place where if someone's working overtime or working late, taxis home or something like that, and that could be something, for people working in central business districts that's applicable. But I think a lot of these journey claims are increasingly in rural areas.
And as tragically is so often the case in these workplace deaths, it's somebody who hasn't been working very long. So as you say, they don't know what they can cope with. They're not used to driving back at 7 a.m. Their body clock is not adjusted to the shift work. And again, that's another message for employers in all these issues, is you have to watch people in their first weeks to months of employment in relation to safety so closely. So the proportion of serious accidents and deaths related to young employees in their first few months is terrible.
Yeah, well, the Workers' Compensation Commission didn't go as far as saying that they do owe a duty of care to their employees when they're working these type of shifts, but they did take particular note of the fact that this woman in particular was working close to double the hours of a usual person, and kind of signalled that as a consideration that employers need to really consider before letting their employees work such hours.
Mm.